welcome back to our little cottage here on the river in the far north of Idaho. So in this video, I'm going to share with you what is, in my opinion, one of the easiest cakes that you can make from scratch, and that is a Victoria sponge cake. And it has become a little bit of a tradition for me to make this every year on my birthday. And as I have mentioned before, I am a bit of an anglophile, and so this cake definitely makes my inner anglophile happy. And tradition says that this was Queen Victoria's favorite cake to have at tea time. And so it is definitely a wonderful cake to have with a cup of coffee or tea. And as I mentioned, it is so simple to make. And so you're going to want to start with two 8-inch round cake pans. And you're going to want to cut out some parchment paper to sit in the bottom of the pans. And it's so easy to do. All you do is you take your piece of parchment paper and trace around the bottom of the cake pan, and then cut out that circle, and then just simply place that in the bottom of your pan. And this is going to make it so that the cake comes out very easily from the pan. And if you do not do this, you may have difficulty getting the cake out of the pan, even if you grease the pan. So definitely don't skip this step. And so you're just going to cut those rounds out, get it in the pan, and then you're going to also grease the pan. And you can use softened butter. I just used a little drizzle of avocado oil and just made sure that I got the sides of the pan really well. I mean, the bottom got oil as well, which is perfectly fine. Again, that just helps that cake come out of that pan really easily. So make sure you get those pans greased really well. And you are going to want to have your oven preheating to 350 degrees. And I really enjoy making this cake completely by hand. So I don't use my stand mixer at all. You certainly can absolutely use your stand mixer, but every so often I just enjoy making a recipe and not using my stand mixer and just using my hands. And so you're going to want to have 1 cup of unsalted butter that is at room temperature. And you really want to make sure that your butter is nice and soft because you're mixing it by hand. And then to this, you're going to add 1 cup of granulated sugar. And you're going to cream these together. And obviously, doing it with the back of a wooden spoon, it's going to take a little bit longer than if you use your stand mixer. But just take some time and cream those two together with your wooden spoon. And then once these are creamed together, you're going to want to add 4 eggs, and preferably your eggs will be at room temperature as well. They don't have to be, but it's just one of those things where having all of your ingredients at the same temperature is always a good idea when you're baking cake. And so you're just going to add in the 4 eggs to the creamed butter and sugar, and then you're also going to add in 2 teaspoons of vanilla, and then you're going to whisk these all together until they are well combined. And then once this is all well mixed together, you're going to add in your flour, and you're going to add 2 cups of all-purpose flour, 4 teaspoons of baking powder, and then a half a teaspoon of salt. And I always use kosher salt, which is, the flakes are much bigger than like a table salt. So keep that in mind. I think if you're going to use just a regular table salt, then maybe just do like a 1/4 of a teaspoon. But yeah, and then you're just going to mix those all together. And again, I'm just going to use my wooden spoon, and you want to make sure that you do not mix this too much. If you mix this too long, then you're going to end up with a tough cake, and we definitely don't want that. So you're just going to stir this until it has just come together and no longer. you're going to add the batter to your 2 cake pans. So you just kind of divvy it up, half in one pan, half in the other. And this is a very thick batter. This is not like a cake batter that you can pour it. So you're going to have to use your spoon to scoop it into the pans, and then you can use the back of the wooden spoon to kind of press it into the pans or just move it around so that it's even in the pan. It can feel a little tricky. I found that you can also wet your fingers a little bit, like just barely, but wet your fingers, and then you can also press gently, very gently, press the batter into the pan to get it to spread evenly. You want it to get just to the edges of the pan. So again, you can use your wooden spoon as you see me doing here. I kind of do that to get the process started, and then as I said, I wet my fingers a little bit to finish pressing that into the edges of the pan. Then these will go into the preheated 350-degree oven for 15 to 20 minutes until a skewer or a toothpick or a knife inserted in the middle comes out clean. And then you're going to remove these to a wire rack to start cooling. And then once they've cooled for about 20 minutes, you can then turn them out of the pan. And as you saw there, it should be very easy because you have the parchment paper and you've greased the pan. Sometimes the parchment paper will stick to the bottom of the cake, and so you'll just simply gently peel it off. It'll come off very easily. And so you'll remove those from the pans, let them continue to cool completely. And while those are cooling, you can make your whipped cream. And here you're going to want to use your stand mixer or your beater just because, making whipped cream by hand is quite the task. So anyway, for the whipped cream, you're going to want to do 1 cup of heavy whipping cream, 1/4 cup of powdered sugar, and a teaspoon of vanilla, and get that beating up in your mixer until it forms stiff peaks. And here I'm just trimming off the top of one of the cakes, and this is just to get it nice and flat. So just really simply just trim a little bit off the top so you have a nice flat cake, and this will be the bottom layer of the cake. And then to this, once the cake is completely cooled, you're going to spread some strawberry or raspberry jam. And traditionally, this cake would use strawberry or raspberry jam, but you, of course, can have some fun with it and use whichever jam you would like. But you use about 1.25 cups or so of jam. And here I'm doing strawberry jam. And you want to make sure you spread this out all the way to the edges, because you definitely want to see some of that jam peeking through when the cake is finished. And then you're going to take about 2 cups of whipped cream, a really generous helping of whipped cream, and you're going to spread that over the top of the jam. And of course, again, make sure you get all the way out to the edges. And then you're going to take that second layer of cake and you're going to flip it upside down and put that on top and just gently press it down. Don't press too hard because you don't want all of that whipped cream to, press out, but you'll just gently put that top of the cake on top. And then you're going to sprinkle the top with some powdered sugar. And this is optional, but I love doing the powdered sugar on top. It just makes for a very pretty finish on top of your cake. You can always make this cake ahead of time and store it in the fridge in an airtight container. You can also store the leftovers in the fridge in an airtight container. And as always, I will have the recipe over on my blog, homespunannie.com. I will also have it linked in the description box below. So I really hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a like. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Share with someone else you think would enjoy it. And I will talk to you guys in the next video.